So as the screen says, Happy New Year to everybody. This is the first quick video for 2019. And there's a reason why I'm opening with this website. Today the shipping started on one of the projects that I was involved in 2018, but which for some kind of delays finally is now going into pre-order in 2019. And I don't know all the facts yet, so sorry about that. It has to do with holidays they had in China and some communications that we normally would have that I didn't have now. So it is now in pre-order, but I don't know all the questions or all the answers yet. Although I do have regular contact with them, and I will probably get some of the things that I don't know in the next few days. So let's jump into it, because we are talking about an item which was first in co-design. Now it should be in pre-order, so let me click on it here. And it's this item called the 2236. And the reasons for me to talk about it in this video is simply because the first picture that you saw was a New Year's wishes. It also said there's no shipping cost at the moment. And I just tried it, and if you order this now and you are okay with the slow shipping option, it will be free for shipping. And they still do a pretty good pre-order sales. It's not 50% anymore like in the old days. I think they are now for most items going to about 30% off, which is still a good deal. And the item that we are talking about is kind of the follow-up of the L bracket we designed or we helped design last year, called the 2122, and it's been used quite a lot by people, and this is kind of a follow-up model or a pro model. It might look a little bit confusing, and that's the other reason why I'm making this video, to explain a little bit more what has changed and what the logic is behind it. There will probably be a replacement for the 2122 at some point. If you don't want to have this sort of growable half case solution, you can probably wait for that, or still use the 2122. I still use it, I still like it, but this is sort of an extra option that you have now. So you can pre-order today for about 60 bucks, and the 60 bucks will give you all the parts that you see here. So it compares quite favorably to some of their other, let's say half cases. So if we look for that quickly, you will see, for example, this one, which is a popular one, which is about 90 bucks, and you can also see the design and why I think actually the 2236 makes most sense for video shooters and for me, and also for photographers which sometimes just want to add some of the video parts on the fly, while this is more aimed at people who are really video people, but sometimes want to slide the camera out to put it on a gimbal, or to put it on, take a quick picture, stuff like that. So they're kind of now filling up this gap between what you could do with the 2122. So if you go back to the shop part, you will also see that still being listed. So this one. And this one, this is kind of an in-between solutions before you go to the complete cages. So if you go back to the pre-order part, and for some people they probably would think I'm talking too much, which is fine. Then for you the only goal was to show to you, hey, this is now in pre-order, go out and get it. But let's talk about a little bit more for the other people. So the idea behind this L bracket was there were a few things they wanted to fix based on the 2221. Sorry, the 2122. And one of the things that they wanted to do is not just fix it, but also create a pro model in a way before they would replace the cheaper model. And the pro model that they wanted to make basically tries to fix all the problems in the old one, some of them big, some of them small, and add extra functionalities. And the extra functionalities is basically this front part and this top part that you can add optionally. And you don't see that clearly in the pictures, but the whole idea is that there are now 3 or 4 different parts that you can still take away from the base unit, and it will still work, but it will give you extra options to begin with. So let's talk about it quickly, so the changes that have been made, and I will randomly call them out because once I get a prototype in, they promised me to send me a prototype. It might take a few weeks. You see that the pre-ordering is starting now, but the shipping is expected in February the 11th. Because of the Chinese New Year coming up on the beginning of February, some of this is still a little bit vague because they need to be manufactured and sent. So they're trying to get a prototype to me to review. So we'll see what happens if it's a few weeks before that. My guess is it will be by the end of the month. Hopefully I will have a prototype and I can review it. And some of the questions that I still have and you might still have will be answered. But since you can now use the pre-order and the free shipping, it seems like a smart idea to talk about it a little bit now and maybe for you to pre-order it. So some quick things that I have updated from the last one before we go into the functionalities. The first thing that you see compared to the 2122, and it's not totally clear in this picture how smooth this will be aligned because this is an old rendering, but you can see that there's no bump anymore here. So the way that they have done this is that you can see that this part is now separate and it can flip open. So if you see here, this is now totally in the same shape as the camera. It doesn't have the bolts in here anymore, and you can open it up using a button to replace the battery. There are some other advantages here. The shape, for example, of this bottom part. Let me see if we have one where it's closed. Yeah, on this one you can see one of the complaints here was that this was a little bit sharp. It was for some people using it one-handed. I always use two hands, so I never noticed it that much, but for people using one-handed it would be a little bit sharp on the edge on the old model. That has now been fixed, and you can also see there's no bump here anymore. So people who had problems with their pinky, that it would be, let's say the grip would be too big in that area, is also resolved. So that's a benefit. A small thing here is that they changed the ARCA plate a little bit in design, so that it now should also work with some of the clamps, which are not were not all the same size. So basically they changed the width from this from I think 40 millimeters to 37 millimeters, so that some of the clamps by Really Right Stuff and some of the other brands now work better or work. Another small change that they made is they put an extra hole on top of here so that you can add, and I think it's in the list already, you can add this clamp here. It's still called the Nikon C6, C7 clamp, but I asked this and I already put it on the website. It's compatible with this bracket now because this fits into this hole, and if you've seen my video before, you know that this is kind of compatible solution with multiple brackets. So one item that I will talk about is the side grip part here, which is also optionally will work. So if you're new, you can take this part off and you can take this front part off, and what you will then end up with just a base plate with an ARCA plate and the pinky extension. So that's the way that you can use it. What I would personally do 90% of the time, I will take this front plate off. You can see there are 4 screws over there, the top plate off, and just use it as a replacement for the 2122, unless I want to do video, and then I will screw this part on. Don't need to take the whole thing off, just screw this part on with the 4 screws there, and then I'm ready to do the video part that I want to do. This makes perfect sense in my opinion if you just want to use sometimes it for video and not all the time, compared to a normal half cage. And I think that's a very nice solution. So basically you can use it in 3 different ways. You can just use it using the base plate. So as a pinky extension, better weight distribution for big lenses. You can use it with the L part attached. I would suggest for photography. You can use it with a different L parts, which is called a 2118, and I will show it later, which makes it even better for video, because it will add you a second handle over here, and you can hide your HDMI connections, or you can use it, I would say, fully loaded, either with this L part or without, of course also an option, or with the optional 2118 grip with this total video half cage solution. So yeah, there's other small things that they've changed. They changed a small thing. You can see that there's now middle markers here, so you can see where the middle of your camera is, which was not to balance it, which was not on the previous one. A small change. If you look at the other side, you can see that there's now one extra screw hole here, so that you can attach some of your wrist straps. You can see that there's now also the button, which of course is new, that you can press, that releases the battery compartment, so that you can yeah, bring it down if you want. This is now totally closed up, as you can see, with the bottom part. I'm personally looking into if I can reuse this part. I will probably close it up quite far, which means that it even better than the old one can also act as a water seal for the bottom of your camera. So still the battery part on these cameras are the weak points, but you can now see that you can of course leave the battery door on the camera, which I think is good, but I can also see there's now even more of an option to close this up and to make it even more watertight on the bottom. I also plan to put something in here so that I can store 2 extra flash cards here, so that I can actually use this space in a useful way. And by opening or pressing this button, it will flip open, and you can see it will work like that. The other change that they made is, let me find a good picture. You can see some people were complaining. I personally never had this problem, but they had some movement with the L bracket, and you can see that they added now 3 rubber parts here, here and here, to make sure that it doesn't move as much. They also changed a little bit of the tolerances, because as you can see, it's now not supporting the the A9 anymore. So the previous bracket was also for the A9, which is actually 1 millimeter wider than the A7 series is, and they went for let's say a better fit, so that it fits this camera and it doesn't compromise with the other anymore. Here you can also see these new points and this point over here, the markers, so that's new. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, basically this is the profile. I saw one other small change, which I think, I'm not sure if it was really designed that way, but it looks that they added, so this was about 20 millimeters before. It looks that they designed it a little bit so that it can slide out a little bit further. I'm guessing here that there's a real change here. Yeah, not sure if that fits. Then on the new parts, you can see that it has a front plate, which of course is kind of default, but the top plate has multiple holes. It has a era point here, and some other interesting holes that you can attach stuff to, which you can optionally use for video if you want to. If you remove this, it can also still fit something like the lens support. So these holes that are here and here, or if you remove it, I think you can still yeah, use the old way of supporting the lens support options. And since you now have 4 holes here, or 2 holes if you use the front bracket, there's probably more options that you have now to attach yeah, things. So yeah, this is about it. I know this is a little bit vague, and I also still have some questions myself, but I will, as soon as I have some more information, share it with you. So yeah, hopefully yeah, it will become just a bigger success as the previous one. For me, the most important message, which I don't think they are correctly communicating now on the website, is that yes, it can be extended to this level, so you can use all the 4 parts and basically turn the base plate into a base plate into an L bracket and then into this half case solution, but you don't have to, right? So if you now look at the price, the old price, so let's by the end show that. So if you go to the shop, and we go to the cages again, you can see that on this one, just if you didn't see it before, but you can, for 2 things, you can see this is 52 euros, right? So it's pretty close in price when you pre-order now. Here you see the design change that has been made, right? So by making this door, you don't have this extending part which some people were bothered by, especially because of the travel that your pinky have to make. It just didn't feel comfortable for people with, let's say, average to bigger hands. For really big hands like me, I was totally fine with it. I actually didn't mind this design at all, but some people preferred it if this was smooth. The second thing that I wanted to point out is the price. So this is 52 euros, and you can see that's pretty close to the pre-order price of the new one, which is comes of course with more parts. The second thing I wanted to show on this one, but I'm hopefully not making a mistake, but I will just search for it. It's the optional other part that you can add, which is the 2218, which is this part, which is a side handle that you can also attach. Now, if you keep in mind, I know it's a little bit tricky, but if you can keep in mind what we were seeing before with the L part, and you add this part, this will attach to the side in the same way as the L bracket part, and that means that if we go back to this one, here, where is it? There. That if you use it in the full, let's say, video capacity, I would personally take this part off and put the 2218 on, and then you get 2 really nice handles on the side of your unit where you can on top, because on that one there's also another attachment point, or 2 attach points actually there, also for a cold shoe, so you can put your mic here and you still have all this space left for your monitor and other things you want to attach. So I think it becomes a very versatile solution with one really big advantage compared to the 2238 or the other models, that it actually has a much better grip part over here, combined of course with the then grip which is over here. So you can almost mirror this one to this side and you could see how that would look. If you want to see how the 2218 works, you can see one of my other videos. So yeah, as you can see, expected shipping on the February 19th. Yeah, so if you like it, pre-order it. I will do a review once I get it in. The weight is a little bit higher, so it's now 315 grams with all the parts of course attached. So that's a bit heavier than before. It is also a little bit heavier than the 2122 if you take the parts off because of the construction. But if you compare this half case solution, which clearly has more metal over here and at the bottom, to the other one, so the this one, let's take this one as an example. You can see that this one is 297, the new one was 317, but you can clearly see that this is a much rougher design, which for some people is a good thing, but you can also see there's a missing part here. So if you can imagine that now that this grip part is over here, you always have your Arca plate included. You can see that for hybrid shooters this is probably a much nicer solution to use than something like one of these half cases, and the weight is about 18 grams of difference, so not too bad. So see you in the next one. Bye bye.